What happened to free speech in America? I see this barrage of attacks on free speech, aimed really at the right. This idea that conservatives and Trump supporters need to be silenced, need to be censored, need to be purged, need to be treated as a cult. All of this reflects, if you may say, a new wave of intolerance in the country. But where did it come from? We used to live in an America where you could have debate. Even CNN used to have a show called Crossfire. Michael Kinsley on the left, Robert Novak or Pat Buchanan on the right. I would go to college campuses and debate professors about this issue or that. And then suddenly it kind of all went away. I was talking to a friend of mine who's a kind of digital mogul. He's based in Canada. And he goes, "What happened in America, Dinesh?" He goes, "I thought you guys were fighting over the Second Amendment. I didn't think you were fighting over the First." But the First Amendment now is under attack. And I wonder if this is something that is new, or if it is something that is a permanent feature, you might say, of the human problem. The legal scholar Alan Dershowitz makes the point that free speech is a very fragile value. In fact, he says that no one really believes in free speech. Seems very strange to say, but when Dershowitz teaches his class, and this was at Harvard Law School, he would come in and say, "How many of you guys in the class believe in free speech?" Every hand goes up, "I believe in free speech." And then he would say, "All right, well, let's take some specific examples." And he would start pressing people's hot button issues. How many of you think, for example, that racist speech should be outlawed? And a bunch of hands go up. How many of you think that speech demeaning to women should be outlawed? And some more hands go up. And down the list he goes, and some of the issues might be, how many of you think that blasphemy should be outlawed? How many of you think that insulting remarks about really fat people should be outlawed? More hands go up. And eventually he looks around the room and he realizes very few hands are down. In other words, free speech is something that people affirm in theory, but when push comes to shove, they don't believe it. They are intolerant. Now think about the concept of intolerance, because these days we hear things like, we've got to shut up the intolerant. The right-wingers are so intolerant, we've got to shut them down. So intolerance toward the intolerant. But the concept of intolerance is meaningless if it's applied only to people you agree with. If someone says something and you're on board with it, there's no question of tolerance. Tolerance only arises when you are listening to opinions you hate. So you can't say that you're going to be intolerant toward hateful speech. Tolerance only applies to speech and to things that you object to, you despise, you hate. Now, I keep hearing from the left this notion that conservatives and Trump supporters are victims of misinformation. Here is the Obama guy, Ben Rhodes, with a recent clip I want you to see.
How do you identify armed militias who are intent on doing harm? But there's a broader societal issue that it's going to take many years to detox the disinformation, the lies, the hate that has been spread. A whole segment of the American population has been radicalized by what has happened over the last 4 years and by the fact that Donald Trump is no longer there. They can no longer see Donald Trump kind of representing their grievances in the highest office. And so those grievances are going to go back underground. And I think there's a lot of work to be done to deal with the broader societal issues that go beyond what even national security, homeland security professionals could do.
They want to treat us as cult members and they want to deprogram us. And the basic premise of it is this, and you hear it every day on MSNBC and on CNN. The basic idea is the right, the conservatives, have been getting all this misinformation. And the underlying assumption is that we've been listening to people like Trump, we've been listening to people like all these right-wingers, Rush Limbaugh, Fox News. And if only it could be the opposite, if only we would listen to CNN, if only we'd read the New York Times, if only we'd be exposed to PBS or CBS or listen to what the Hollywood. But wait a minute. We do. Conservatives know what the left is saying. They're acting as if we live in an echo chamber and we simply listen to our own guys. But the truth of it is, liberal culture is all around us. We know exactly what they're saying, and we don't accept it. This is what drives them insane. They basically think that all they believe is based on facts. And we believe that A, sometimes their facts are wrong. But even when their facts are right, their values are wrong. So we don't just contest their facts, we contest the interpretive framework in which their facts are presented. And we refuse to go along. And it's our stubborn refusal to essentially sign on to their BS that drives them insane. Look at Trump's support. It's essentially holding immovable. It's holding firm. Look at the way in which conservatives, even though they are subjected to liberal indoctrination in the schools, liberal bombardment in the colleges, a liberal bombardment from the media, at the same time, they still hold recalcitrantly to their conservative principles. And we don't believe our conservative principles because we watch Fox News. We watch Fox News because we have conservative principles. We don't believe conservative things because Trump says so. It's because we're conservatives that we listen to what Trump says, and we agree with him, certainly on many things. So the bottom line of it is the reason that the left has to go to censorship is despite their intense, unceasing, fanatical efforts to bring us over to their point of view, to what they consider to be the enlightened point of view. From their point of view, we refuse to be enlightened. Of course, we are enlightened. We're more enlightened than them in reality. Why? Because we actually know where they're coming from. They really don't know where we're coming from. Whenever I do debate, on the rare occasions today I debate a leftist, I realize everything he says I've already thought of. In fact, while he's speaking, I've not only thought of all the objections to his point of view, but the objections to that and my objections to that, and all before he finishes a sentence. By contrast, the things I say, and I can just see it in their faces, I look at their expressions and they go, "What? You really believe that? Where did you get that?" The consternation, the sort of slack-jawed incredulity tells me they don't know what we think. They don't know what we believe. They haven't read the books we've read. They don't know the history we know. And so they stare at us with a kind of idiotic incomprehension. And then immediately that incomprehension goes to anger. So this is the tyrannical impulse on the left that is expressing itself in the movement for censorship. It's a despicable movement. We're going to block it. We're not going to shut up. You can try all the techniques that you want. You've done it already, and it's gotten you nowhere. So you might as well learn that we're here to stay, and you're going to be hearing from us.